Hello everybody and welcome back. I'm going to talk some more about Warhammer, the old world. Here's the box. That last video I did on it went really well, and it was great to get all that feedback from you. Thank you so much, all the people who wrote in the comments. I reply to every comment if I can, and I just really love to get that discussion going, everyone's opinions on the new release and what they're doing with the game, whether they're going to get into it, whether they just discount it, all their opinions. I think it's fascinating. So I thought we'd have a look at some of those comments. I printed them all out here on a few pages, and I just thought there were some interesting things to discuss. Of course, I didn't cover everything in my video. I don't know everything. So I thought it was definitely worth talking about it some more. So let's get into it. Now, of course, before I start, I've always got to say that I got my copy of Warhammer the Old World for free from Games Workshop. My opinions are always my own, and I want to go into a little bit of that later on as well to talk about that, because, you know, some people get a bit frustrated that content creators get freebies, and there's a few things that you might not understand about that process. Anyway, let's have a look at the comments, shall we? Now, first I wanted to say thank you to those people who appreciated the sort of rambly nature of that last video. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to make all my videos like that. I do all different styles. It just depends what kind of mood I'm in at the time. I just felt like a bit of a fireside chat with that one and this one. So that's just going to be the style for these couple of videos, but it changes depending on what I'm doing. So don't worry about that. But in general, thank you so much for the positivity in the comments and those people who wish me Happy New Year. Really do appreciate it. I am very lucky on my channel that I get lots of really, really nice people and only the very occasional grumpy person. So, now let's get into Warhammer the Old World. Now, you're probably looking at this and going, what's this thing here? Well, I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but this is an old army that I managed to find in a cupboard. So all that chat I had in the first video about, am I going to play the old world because I've only got one army? Well, this may be the thing that allows me to play it. So we'll talk about that in a second. First thing I wanted to show you is the centerpiece miniature from the Tomb Kings of Khemri. I've put it together. Now this is the undead bone dragon thing itself. A truly astonishing model. This is a new model. So it's the only new model in the set. And it comes with the little howdah or seat that goes on the top like that. I've kept these separate for painting, of course. That goes on there, and then you can have this fellow sitting on that. So it's a huge construction. I've kept these pieces separate. There's also a little thing over the top that hangs out here. Here we go. That keeps him protected from the rain. Well, not really, because there's no rain in the desert, and there's holes in the canopy, so it's no good. He's also casting some kind of ghostly vulture thing or something. And you've also got the dude as well on a base. This is the commander of the army on the base. This guy's a magic user, a priest, I should say. He's on a base like that. You can change this, and you can actually put the commander on the bone dragon with a slightly different arrangement to the chair that he's standing on. So there are options there. But yeah, just love it. I mean, fantastic, fantastic model. And also super easy to paint. Lots and lots of skeleton, bone, contrast wash on there will be great. Skeleton horde, I should say. Is it horde? I think it's horde. Painting on that should be really quick and easy to paint. So there you go. I'll show you the Dark Elves army a little bit later. Let's get into those comments. So one thing that I did not know about this release of the Old World, or this semi-re-release of Warhammer Fantasy Battle, is that at about the same time that Games Workshop brought out Age of Sigmar and killed the Old World, which was back in 2015, they also licensed a computer game, which was, of course, Warhammer Total War. Now, I don't play this game because it's mainly a PC game, and I use a Mac, and I play on a PlayStation. So I haven't played it before, but apparently it's hugely popular, and it's sort of it's kept the Old World alive for a start, because it's all set in the Old World. And it's got people interested in it again. So several people, among them Crimson Sun 2000, Mr. Snakes Mott 8499, and Elven Him, all mentioned that Total War was probably a factor in the fact that Games Workshop decided to bring back the Old World. So I thought that was quite fascinating. I didn't know about that. the thing is that all of the models, except that one I just showed you, are very old. So they go back, the skeleton horses, which are just the basic skeleton horses, they've got 1993, copyright 1993 on the sprues. So they're super old. That's 31 years old. Wow. And a lot of the others seem to be from about 2002. So it is true that Games Workshop are completely recycling old stainless steel molds, which last for a long, long time. And you can see that by, as someone pointed out, the fact that there's so much space on these sprues. Now, these days, they're all at angles and they're all crammed in perfectly so you can get a lot of stuff on one sprue. But these sprues are quite spacious. You can see there's big gaps in them. These are the old sort of 2002 sprue design. So that's kind of interesting. But it also shows that this is the one thing that I find fascinating. And I'm not knocking Games Workshop for doing this. They are a business. After all, they're there to make money. And this is a very clever business decision apart from everything else. Basically, these molds would have been sitting in a storage room somewhere, doing nothing, and some bright spark thought, let's bring back a version of Warhammer Fantasy Battle. We can make all these models again with the old molds that are already done, all the design is done, all the tooling of the mold is done. And those molds cost a lot of money. Those stainless steel molds cost a fortune. We can just churn out some more plastic and sell it at today's prices. So everything that used to be really cheap way back in 2002 or even 1993 now is selling for very large amounts of money. So they're doing pretty well. If this takes off, they'll be absolutely laughing all the way to the bank. And, you know, I can't knock them. They're a business. That's how you make money. And if there's a market for it, people are going to buy it. I just wish, you know, this is airy fairy land, but wouldn't it be wonderful if they just released it all cheaper? If they decided, well, we haven't got any of the costs involved with, I mean, they've got some costs with redoing the rules and promotion and all that kind of stuff, but they don't have any cost for making the old models. So you'd think that they could sell it for a lot cheaper, you know? But I suppose then they'd be worried about the game being way too successful and then undermining Age of Sigmar completely. Very, very interesting. It is interesting when you make up the old models, though. You can really tell the difference between the old ones and the new ones. There is sort of a slight rubberiness to it. There's not as much detail. When I say rubberiness, it's not that they're rubbery. It's just that they have less detail, a bit spongy in the detail rather than sharp and crisp in the detail as they are these days. And also the other thing that you really notice when you're putting them together is there isn't that sort of satisfying chick when it's exactly in the right spot. When you're making a recent model, you can just tell as soon as the arm goes into the socket at exactly the right spot because they just fit so perfectly because the technology is so good. The old days, it's a little bit more flexible. That makes it a little bit harder to put them together, but also it's pretty simple because they're simple models. There's not gazillions of bits. These models had lots and lots of bits because they're brand new, so very, very detailed. The older ones, they don't even have numbers on the sprues, I don't think. No, they don't, do they? No, you just have to recognize them by what they are. So they were so simple back then, they didn't even number the pieces on the sprue. The good side of that, of course, is that there's more room for conversion because they're not so exact. So when you put an arm in, you can have it going up here and down here, across there, and you can move it around in the socket instead of it saying, oh, well, that's the only spot. You can still do that now if you chop bits off and everything, but back then it was kind of more flexible. So interesting trade-offs. But I just wish it was cheaper, as you can say. Now, the other thing is, when I found this old army, of course, I'm going to rebase it. So I just thought, out of curiosity, I'd go on the Games Workshop, warhammer.com, and see what they were charging for the bases. And these are the old bases too, because I looked on the bases in the set, and they still have the old copyright on them. So if you look at one of these bases, oh no, they don't actually. They do. GW 2001. So this is, again, it's the old mold. So old mold, all they're doing is injecting plastic into it. 100 square bases are $99 NZ. And get this, 3 cavalry bases, $12 NZ, $4 a base. I mean, yeah, I won't be buying my bases from Games Workshop, I can tell you that. They're making a pretty penny on that one, I can tell you. So yeah, I would suggest, if you want to save some money, to get your bases from somewhere else. I'm sure somebody else makes plastic bases, the 25mm ones, the cavalry ones. They have made them larger than the old thing, this old size. These are 20mm bases, and I think this is great. I'll go into that a little bit later. So, Yeah, they're doing very well out of it. Thank you very much. And who can blame them? It's a company trying to make money, but gee, I wish they'd make it cheaper. Let's move on from there. Oh, more comments. So we had a comment from Jonathan Grant, 3019. Good to see you back, Peter, and a Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to you, mate. He said various things. He didn't think that I was very invested in the game, so I wouldn't waste my time on it. I'll waste a little bit of time on it. He said, I long for the old-fashioned, simple, handheld camera joy of unboxings. Flicking through decks of cards, cardboard tiles, and rule books was always great, which I just found quite funny because the old joy of unboxings, which I did for many years, were never hugely popular, and people get very funny about unboxings. They think, oh, you're just taking up space in a video and you're not really putting a lot of effort in and everything. I thought they were kind of fun, and they were good for that sort of initial look at a game, and also good if you were about to buy a game and you wanted to check out what was inside the box. But yeah, I'm afraid, Jonathan, that you're one of the few people who laments the passing of joy of unboxings. However, as you can see from this last video, I'm now doing a more sort of unbox the game, look at it, talk about the rules, more general overview. And then after I played the game and got to know it more, I'll do a proper review. So that's my general thinking when it comes to format in the future. So joy of unboxing is gone, but long live the joy of unboxing in a new form. A few people mentioned other games, of course. There's a few mentions of Hobgoblin, which is the game by Mike Hutchinson, who designed Gaslands, which is a fantastic tabletop miniatures game of car combat, Mad Max type car combat. He released a set of rules called Hobgoblin, which was successful on Kickstarter or whatever Game Found or whatever they used. And that is going to be released to their buyers soon. I've done a battle report for it, so if you want to check it out on this channel, go and check it out. It's a very, very simple set of rules for rank and flank, but satisfying and fun and gets right into the action. So that's an option if you like rank and flank stuff. I mentioned Conquest, of course. There's another one. A few people said, what other games have we got? Kings of War, which is by Mantic Games. Picton 101 is into Firefight and Dead Zone, which is sci-fi ones, of course, and not rank and flank, but there you go. And he's also looking forward to the epic version of Warpath, which is going to be sort of the Legions Imperialis alternative, I suppose, if you want to go the Mantic route rather than the Games Workshop route. But certainly Kings of War is another rank and flank game by Mantic. That's their version. And in fact, one of the designers, Alessio Carvatori, used to work for Games Workshop way back in the day. So he's the designer of Kings of War, I think. So there are other options if you like your rank and flank. Crimson Sun 2000 said, fantasy was always my jam. I have 3 armies that I'm going to rebase for this edition and expand, of course, because no army is ever finished. No, it isn't. I'm so excited for this release. I grew up playing Warhammer. I'm so pleased to have it back because when they killed the setting, they didn't just kill the lore, they killed the game, and there's been nothing to replace it. So there you go. Some people are really into this new version. Crimson Sun really likes the depth of the old rules. Now, I said they were clunky. Of course, that's just my opinion. I don't like cross-indexing things. Crimson Sun says he has those tables in his head from playing for years and years, so he likes that old thing. He likes all the granular detail and that kind of thing. That's his jam, as he says. And so, yeah, good on him. There's a market for this kind of stuff. Personally, I prefer the more streamlined, faster rules these days because I just run out of brain space and time, but I totally understand people wanting to get into all the heavy detail. And certainly when I was younger, I prefer that too. He does acknowledge that Warhammer can be demanding. It needs far more models, far heavy rules overhead, and far more commitment. And he understands that it's not for everyone. The launch seems to have been very successful, selling out of most things very quickly. So I'm hopeful they can sustain this along with their other projects. And we already know they're working on models for Kislev and Cathay. So I can see at least 5 years of support for it if it maintains its popularity. So if you don't know, Kislev and Cathay are 2 of the lesser known countries in the old world. Kislev is sort of a Russian steppes kind of culture, and Cathay, of course, is a Chinese kind of thing. So he's very excited about the whole thing, which is really good to see. We've got Calvinoni 5443 who said, I've got no one to play this with either. I'm north of San Francisco. Oh, mate, look, if you're living north of San Francisco, go down to the comments and find Calvinoni5443 and hit him up for a game. I mean, there must be somebody else around there, let's face it. As I said, that's about 15 and a half times bigger than the population of where I'm living. So it's a lot harder to find someone around here, I can tell you. So yeah, look him up for a game. Mr. Snakesmut8499 or something like that, this is very tiny type, says, why is it back? Demand. The video game kept the old world intellectual property alive throughout COVID when people couldn't play tabletop games together as often. People still played the game as Ninth Age and Warhammer Armies project, and GW wants to tap that market to some degree. So there you go, that sounds very, very smart. We've got, however, alternative opinions. User NV3UE3F4G, gee, there's a catchy handle, says, I've been a gamer since 1979 and played Warhammer in the 80s. The old world is DOA, dead on arrival, in my opinion. The game design is stuck in the past. Even we grognards have moved on, and its format is just too expensive for today's economy. There are so many other options that cost less and have faster, cleaner, modern game mechanics. So there are people who feel exactly the opposite. This is the rich pageant of different opinion that we have here. Fascinating. He also says, he says, once players start wrestling with the old world's high overhead in acquisition costs and tedious mechanics, I believe we'll see a significant drop in enthusiasm. I really don't believe that nostalgia alone will overcome the same forces that led to 8th edition's demise. Remember, one side of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Strong opinions there. Now, talking about my rambling, OKHL6QD said, let's see it! Get on with it! 12 minutes of preamble! I'm sorry, mate. I did warn you, as I said in my reply. I have added a link that goes straight to the... It's probably too late for you now, because you may have watched the whole thing, or maybe you just gave up in disgust. But if I do videos like this in the future, and for this one, of course, I will add little links so you can go straight to the meat of whatever you're after. I also had a suggestion from Wolfie54321 who said, I don't mind the ramble, but maybe some timestamps would be helpful. So thank you, sir. I will, in fact, put those timestamps in. KakashipWNS1 said, if you had the info on the opposing armour, you could just proxy out pieces. Yes, and in fact, I said not possible as I never collected a fantasy battle army back in the day. And then as I was writing that, I thought, just a minute, I think I do have an army. And I went and looked, and look, lo and behold, in a box, which hasn't been opened in 20 years or something, I found this Dark Elves army, which I'm going to show you in a moment. So I was very excited. So thank you, Kakashipwisness1. You prompted me to find this army. I'm very excited now about rebasing it. Now, we're always going to get a couple of whinges, and we've got people saying things like, I don't think GW sent these boxes for reviews. They send it for cheap advertisement. Well, yeah, of course they do. And someone else said, another freeloader who gets free stuff while we plebs have to dig out our gold filings to pay for it. I'm not sure if that person was joking or not, because it's pretty funny. Or maybe they were serious. I don't know. Somebody else said, you best play it. You've had it for bugger all, mate. And then we got this very grumpy one saying, so you're whinging about only getting one free box instead of two. Blah, 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 blah. You're going to, yeah, anyway. I won't even bother reading it out. But I'm not whinging about getting anything free. I never do. I was just having a joke. Now, one thing I wanted to mention here, I'm not going to dwell on this too much, but it made me think about something, and this is, I'm getting a little long in the tooth, and it's taken me a long time to understand this particular bit of philosophy. I'm going to impart it, which you can ignore if you want to. But I think it's very interesting, especially in this day and age where we have our politicians and everyone are trying to whip up the worst feelings in us and trying to basically mine the dark parts of our souls in order to get our votes. Here's the thing that I've discovered over the years. If somebody else gets something, it doesn't mean it's taking away from you. There isn't one pool of things, and as soon as somebody else gets something, something is no longer available to you. So if I get a game, it doesn't mean that you've missed out. Now, there's a reason I get a freebie to show off for review and everything, and that is because I've spent the last 10 years of my life putting most of my free time into creating this channel. So some effort went in to get the advantage. So when I get these grumpy emails, I just think, well, what you're actually saying, what it comes down to is that you're angry that I got a freebie and you didn't. Well, you can get a freebie too, if you want to put the effort in. And you may be very successful straight off the bat. You may do a couple of videos and be so successful that you can write to Games Workshop and say, send me free copies for review. And they say, yeah, you're getting 10,000 copies, 10,000 views of video for sure. In my case, it took me the better part of a decade to get to that level. So, go easy. The other thing is that Games Workshop don't give me any restrictions for what I say about their games. So I don't have to advertise their games. Of course, I'm showing them off and people are getting views, and that's what they want. They want everyone to be aware of their product but they don't want me to say how fantastic it is. The only thing I have to do when I get a review copy is not tell you about it until a certain date, which they specify because they have all their promotional timetables. The other thing they ask me to do is to put a couple of hashtags after everything, just so they can keep track of who's doing what. So that's why you'll see hashtags in my social media responses. And the final thing they ask is that I always mention that I got a copy for free at the start of any video or whatever, or article. So that's it. They do not police what I say, and I've never had them contact me and say, you said something negative in that last video, take it back, edit it out, anything like that, or you have to say positive things about our products or anything like that. I just want to make that clear. If you don't know, that's how it works. So as I always say, my opinions are my own. Let's get on to the Dark Elf Army. Thank you, everybody, all the lovely people. There were just a couple of funny people, but everybody else was wonderful. I feel like your buddies down the road, and it's really nice for everyone to write in and comment, and because I love to chat about games. It's really exciting. It's fun. So please keep writing in. Just if you're in a bad mood, don't write. Though I don't mind constructive criticism. Absolutely, bring that on. I don't mind that at all. So Dark Elves. I found these Dark Elves. Now these actually were mostly painted by a friend of mine back in the day, and they still hold up. It's really interesting to see the style of painting and how it's changed. I mean, back then, and these are all metal figures, so these are pretty old. I can't tell you what date. There's a date on the bottom of one of these bases. What's that? 1984. Wow. All metal back in the mid to late 80s. Yeah, so the colour choices were different. Painting style was different. It was sort of more cartoony. Realism was very much not the goal. But there are some nice figures here, especially these commander ones and these guys on lizards and everything. Now, the only thing I have to do is rebase them because they made the decision to make the bases 25mm square instead of 20mm, which I think is a great idea because, as you can see, these Corsairs here are really crammed together on these bases, and they really don't rank up very well because they're quite large miniatures and the bases are too small. Now, as I mentioned, of course, they're not supporting the Dark Elf army in the old world, but they are releasing stats for it, which is great. So I can still use this army. Now, I don't have anything that's going to go up against this, so this thing will probably have to bow out of any battles. I do, however, have this sorceress on a Pegasus, which, back in the day, this was a big model. So look at the difference. So it'd be interesting to see what her stats are. I mean, maybe even though she's really small, her stats are still really good. I don't know. I've got a couple of these fantastic bolt thrower figures, which are great. A unit of witch elves, a unit of guys on lizards, and a unit of corsairs, and a magic user, and a commander, and all that kind of stuff. So it's a nice little army. It's going to be really interesting to bring it out. And I'm absolutely chuffed that it's able to be used again. And I think that actually, to close this very, very long ramble, I think that I can feel a bit of that feeling that everyone had when this new system was released. If they had old armies, they just thought, I can bring out my old armies again. They're sitting in storage. I haven't used them for a long, long time. And it's really nice to be able to bring them out again and after a bit of rebasing to play with them again. I think that's the thing that they're really getting in touch with, despite the fact, of course, that they're releasing a lot of old models and charging lots of money for them and obviously making a stinking profit. But there you go. That's business. So I'm going to try and get these Dark Elves out against the two Kings of Khemri and see what happens and see if I can bear the clunkier old rules. Or I say they're clunky, you say potato, I say potato, whatever you want. The more detailed, granular rules, more depth, and we'll see how it goes. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you again for your comments. I will see you next time. Hopefully next time something a little bit more slick and professional and a little less rambly. In the meantime, good gaming, and bye for now.